The Nimble with Numbers team presents Chalked Blocked with Bo Big Time McBrayer.
I gotta know what a $5 shake tastes like.
That's hot. That's hot.
I want winning, folks. You don't know diddly.
And his partner, Scott Stag Simpson.
Do you know who I am?
Trying to put Tiger Bomb on this jungle's nuts.
That's cute. I remember when I had my first beer.
I gotta catch a glimpse of these warlocks. Let's make a move. Make a move. Make a move.
Hey, you guys! Welcome back to Chalk Blocked, the world's sexiest DFS show. For now, the beards and bellies have awoken from hibernation to break our summer silence with an absolute banger of an episode. I am joined, as always, by Nimble with Numbers himself, Scott Simpson. Hit the thumbs up, sub it, and jingle that bell if you like the cut of our jib. Without further pomp and circumstance, I must address the blinding allure gracing us now for the second time. He is the omnipotent creator of quite possibly the most pivotal compilation of content and data in fantasy football history with the Reception Perception. He is a fellow foodie who recently tied the knot and signed the least controversial contract extension of the offseason with Yahoo Sports. Please welcome back to the show the very sexy Matt Harmon.
What's up, guys? I mean, that was one hell of an intro, and it made my life sound a lot cooler and more exciting than it really is. But I appreciate you guys having me back. I'm ready to chat today.
This is like hot boy summer for you, though, Matt. Like all the news rolling in around Matt Harmon, it's like you can't help but just be insanely jealous of your life right now.
Well, I mean, everybody's got complications here and there, but yeah, things have been good lately. So I'm very grateful. It's like I've been really reflective the last 2 weeks, honestly. Like it, just from the start of the journey until now. And obviously, of course, super number one career aside for a second, super grateful that somebody as amazing as my wife wanted to marry me. That's like, what a twist. What a win for the good guys. But yeah, career wise, just super grateful. And I'm really excited for this year. I'm really excited for a lot of cool stuff that I'll get to announce and share over the next couple of weeks and everything. But yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, I gotta say, when good things happen to great people and you see milestone moments, weddings, contract extensions, I said, you know what, Bo, we got to touch on those things first and just congratulate Matt and let him know, as men who are, both married, congratulations. First of all, we both have double-digit years and lots of things we could tell you not to do. So if you want the how-to of what to, not to fuck up, sorry for the kids, I can tell you what not to do. But it looked amazing on Instagram, and you guys looked beautiful. I mean, literally, you're a beautiful man. Your wife's a little bit more beautiful than you. I hate to say
a little bit. Yeah, at least Bree looked beautiful and kind of it was kind of residual beauty.
Right. That
Matt was on. Yeah.
I mean, I like
all the pictures of us together. I'm like, I look great. All the pictures of just me, I'm like, those didn't really need to make it in. Like, well, although I did the picture you guys tweeted out for the show. It's my like Twitter profile picture. I'm like, this is great. Like, I'm never gonna have another. Fingers crossed. Never have another situation where a professional photographer is taking pictures of me ever again. I feel like it might. I mean, who knows? But would rather never do that. Like taking pictures like that is kind of a stone nightmare for both of us, but definitely for me. So I'm just glad I put a good one in there, and now I can use that as a headshot forever.
So I heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true, that you were going to be the next TB12 underwear model as well.
You mean, this, Bo, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to give up, all barbecuing activity for like a good 24 months or something like that.
Oh, no,
I
saw
a deal breaker. Yeah, exactly. So that's not happening. I saw a meme the other day. Actually, I think, come to think about it, I think Bree was the one who sent it to me, which maybe she's trying to tell me something. I don't know. But like, it's like, it was
always
Russell
a
Crowe,
message.
Always a message. Russell Crowe in like an action movie. And it was like me in my 20s. And then like Russell Crowe lately when he looks, he's a little thicker and big beard's grown out. And it's like me in my 30s when I discovered I like beer and barbecue. And I'm like, I mean, I'm not quite there, but I'll definitely throw a hand.
Guilty as charged with that, with the transformation that you're about to embark upon.
Let's go, baby.
Actually, if you embrace it, I mean, if I look like Nimble in 10 years, I think I'll be pretty well off. I'll feel pretty damn good about myself because Nimble is quite old. He's a lot older than he looks. And so I will take that as a victory if I look that good when I'm his age.
Thank you. I'm 69 years old today, Bo. So I
Nice.
that. Yeah,
Shout
I
out.
mean, you know. Yeah, and just for that, Bo, I have something for you, and that is a noise. Yeah, this is just for you. I made a noise sound drop so we could say noise whenever Bo says something that is noise. So I appreciate you guys. Matt Harmon, by the way, if you don't know, check his pinned tweet on Twitter, and I'm gonna try another new button on my little toy here, and that's my screen share button, and see if it actually pops up. And you know, yeah, well, you guys can't see it. I can see it where it's popping up, and it worked. So if you're not following Matt Harmon, please go follow him right now. He only has 129,000 followers, so he needs a lot more, right? He needs like a million. He needs to get near, like, you know.
I'm looking to lose a few, actually. So if you do follow and you'd like to take a break, you can go ahead and unfollow.
He's out. He's got too many. They're capping him. So no, he looks great, by the way. This is your David Beckham photo shoot here that you're talking about. That's pretty. Yeah,
never gonna look better than that. Never, ever. Thank you. I'm sure Kelsey, great wedding photographer. I'm sure she did a lot of work into making me look a little bit better. Yeah. So
but you can carry that picture for decades and never update it.
Yeah, I mean, Adam Levitan has had like the same Twitter profile. I respect him for this. He's had the same like Twitter profile picture for like 20 years, and he looks nothing like that anymore. But I would argue he looks better now. He looks a little more grizzled, a little more handsome. But you know, maybe it's all stick with this one just forever.
Yeah. No, it's good. And if you go to his Twitter account, you can link right to Reception Perception, which is great. And here we are in it. And so Bo and I, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of ask Matt some questions based on the research he's done. He's going to give us the interpretation. We kind of were joking about how we share, sometimes we tweet out the backdrop of his route trees, right? But they really need to be explained. They really need to be under the guidance of some explanation. And we're going to try to break down today's how do you apply reception perception to fantasy, particularly these wide receivers, and how it correlates to the quarterbacks that they have and their projections. So, Bo, I'm going to let you have the field. I know that you've got 900 different questions for Matt, so you can go first.
So I really want to understand better what you feel about the Jets this year, because we have a whole different scheme of things here where you have the same LaFleur offense. You have another 1 year of experience more for Zach Wilson, who was shaky at best to start the year. Then he got hurt, came back, had some flashes. But even before he came back, we saw Elijah Moore completely explode with Josh Johnson and Mike White throwing him the ball. And then he looked pretty damn good too with Wilson towards the back half. And now we have Garrett Wilson there, who's an outstanding player out of Ohio State. Maybe not as polished as he will be in a year or two, but they also have Breece Hall. And then they still have Michael Carter. They still have Corey Davis, who we know is like your quintessential flanker guy that you've charted over all these years. Yeah. So I want to know like how you feel about this Jets passing game in general, but specifically more about our guy. Like I feel like we share this undying devotion and love to Elijah Moore. I want you to break this passing game down for me and tell me what we should expect and whether or not we're a little over our skis on Elijah Moore this year.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Jets ecosystem as a whole, for one, I really like a lot of kind of Mike LaFleur's play design there. I mean, I just want to buy into this system of offense in general because it's made life easy on quarterbacks. And I think that's sort of been kind of the theme of this offseason. Like, let's make Zach Wilson's life easier, because once like Elijah Moore got hurt, even in some of those games where Wilson did have a little bit of flashes, like you said, he's out there playing with like some goofballs, you know. I mean, Corey Davis was hurt too. They had nothing at tight end this year. They signed 2 tight ends in free agency. You know, neither CJ Uzomah or Tyler Conklin's like a world beater, but those guys are legitimate NFL tight ends, and they've got 2 of them. You know, the wide receiver position, they draft Garrett Wilson 10th overall. That's just stacking the deck there. Like at times last year, we're talking like these guys like nobody's, you know, Jeff Smith or whatever. Like, you know, it was crazy there for a minute. So now we've got some real guys there. Even Braxton Berrios is like their fourth receiver. By the way, Braxton Berrios is going to be like lead the league in irritating fantasy managers this year, 100%, because he can play a little bit. You know, he's the consummate like layup slot receiver, and you know, him and Zach Wilson wear like freaking t-shirts with each other's names on it and stuff. So that's gonna happen. You draft Elijah Moore, you draft Corey Davis you draft Garrett Wilson in the late rounds. Like, get ready to get a little irritated at this Braxton Berrios guy every now and again. But again, it's just buoying things up for Zach Wilson. We know they make additions on the offensive line as well. Mekhi Becton's going to be back this year, fingers crossed. So yeah, this is all about making Zach Wilson's life easier, which we just really, Bo, we need him to be average this year for Elijah Moore to break out in fantasy, because Elijah Moore is damn good at the game, right? And the reason I think you probably feel this way, I know this is why I feel this way about Elijah Moore, is not only is he great, you know, he hits that like 75% success rate versus man coverage mark that we want to see in reception perception, hits benchmarks against zone. Like, he's a guy that I love players like this, because they prove kind of the consensus narrative about them wrong, which was coming into the NFL, it was, he's a smaller player. He only ran in the slot in college. A lot of like Justin Jefferson only ran in the slot in college. And there were similar questions about him, but like, just because you don't do it in college doesn't mean you can't. And you saw the signs from like a success rate versus man press level in his collegiate reception perception that, you throw him outside, he's going to win. And sure enough, like those weeks when he was like a legitimate top 10 fantasy receiver, he was doing that as an outside X receiver, not like a little bunny hop slot guy. So I just love this player. I'm so excited about him. It is a little bit of like close your eyes and bet on talent, because, you know, I think Corey Davis is a jag, but he's going to be in the rotation. Garrett Wilson is going to command some targets here and there. They beef up the tight end room. I don't think you can project like a 24% target share for Elijah Moore, but God, the talent's there. You just want to bet on that. And if Zach Wilson can just be average, you want to bet on that as well.
I like that take. Right now, he's at wide receiver 35 on 4-4s. Could you get a bigger jug? Damn it! I thought I had a big jug. Man, that guy's jug's way bigger than mine.
They're the same size, you idiots.
No.
What
are you at? What are you at? What do you like?
That's a 64 ounce.
64 ounce.
This is a gallon, baby. This is a full-on gallon.
That's more. Yeah, it's more. I need to get.
I actually just I'm drop things are falling everywhere now. I gotta be careful there.
He is pissing excellence, everyone. Matt Harmon
just got this
pissing
literally
excellence.
yesterday. Just got this yesterday. Went to my wife's yoga class, and she's like, you're gonna kill somebody with that thing. Like, that's a weapon. Exactly. You're swinging this thing around.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill all the vitamins and poisons running through my body or whatever.
No, shout out Big D in the chat. We're definitely going to talk Jalen Tolbert. That's my guy, Bo's guy. We love Jalen Tolbert. We're going to get into him and his 10-inch hands, all that good stuff.
Easy there, Slugger.
Yeah, but I have a leverage question here. So right next to him is Rashad Bateman, and I heard, and I always love you. I'm a fan of you as a fantasy content consumer. I listen to also Establish the Run with Evan Silva, Adam Levitan. Talked about his Twitter profile a little bit earlier. So you went on their show and you talked about Rashad Bateman being a mini breakout candidate this year in the mold of the Justin Jefferson. So I guess I wanted a little clarification on where in his route tree is he going to be winning most of his matchups with Lamar? How's that going to work together as a fantasy manager? If you draft him, what should you expect in that give and take? Should it be downfield? Is it across the middle? How do they line up this year with, hopefully, you have a healthy Lamar there the whole season, really can maximize and build that relationship?
Well, I think the exciting thing about Rashad Bateman is that if you wanted to play him as a big slot receiver, he could do that. But he really, as a rookie, won as an X receiver. He did that in 2019 in college. And then again, he kind of moved in that big slot receiver role in his final collegiate season, although albeit like very COVID ruined, shortened, all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I think that, man, just Bateman can do it all, right? Like if you wanted him to go down the field, he can do that. I think he runs inside routes, runs outside routes. Like, the good part about Rashad Bateman is that he just checks so many boxes. I really think he profiles as a legitimate, true number one receiver. And the exciting thing about it is that the Ravens have Definitely never had a guy like that in the Lamar Jackson era. I like Hollywood Brown. I've always been a big Hollywood Brown fan, but never thought he was like a legit one, and certainly not a guy that you want. Like the one year that they kind of ran him out as a legit outside receiver against as an X receiver, he kind of flopped. That was his worst season as a pro. So I mean, Bateman just again checks so many boxes, can do it all. They've not had a player like this during Lamar's tenure. I mean, honestly, when's the last time the Ravens had a player like that, period? Like anytime in the last decade?
Steve Smith, that was the last one.
At like the end of the line, Steve Smith only had that one great year when he took it to the Panthers in that one game, blood and guts, all that stuff. So yeah, I mean,
I love
never say anything bad about Steve Smith, but I mean, they've not had like a young up and coming prospect in that mold ever. I mean, Torrey Smith, it was never even that guy, and that's kind of the best that you could point to.
Yeah, and I mean,
you love Matt, by the way.
Yeah, we're 2 for 2 now on my recently released must-have wide receiver article from Fantasy Pros is like Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman. We're just going down the list of guys that I've been drafting in every single opportunity. And of course, when I'm in 35 leagues, there's a lot of opportunities to draft these guys.
I'm just here to make you look good, buddy. I'm just here to make you look good.
That's what we're doing. Is confirming our bias. That's how.
Right. That's perfect. That's why I do what I do. Is I want people to affirm what I'm seeing, because what they're seeing is the same thing. I'm seeing that everybody wants to bag on Lamar Jackson's passing ability, but the dude just led the NFL in passing touchdowns a couple of years ago. And now he's finally got a guy who can get open at all 3 levels of the field, outside, inside. If Lamar's going to break off and scramble, he can be the guy that gets open late, because, Mark Andrews is always going to be that guy too. And now there's 2 of them out there running wide open with plenty of yak ability. I just love having there you go. There's our next one. No, I didn't send Debro our show sheet, but I mean, him and I are simpatico when it comes to wide receivers for the most part. Well, he's an in and out burger hater though, so I'm kind of off him on.
Well, I like him, but
Anyway, I'm just happy to see that everybody's in agreement here that those 2 guys that we've talked about already are just, I mean, they're a powder keg of ability that we're hoping to get in mid rounds and have wide receiver 1 upside. And I have both of these guys in the top 20 this year. So it's, I mean, I'm not being crazy. I just think I'm being hyper aggressive on guys that I really, really want to have. So I rank them where I don't want to miss them. I'm going to reach and get the guys I really like, because I want to watch them play first and foremost. And if I'm winning a fantasy matchup, I want it to be because I had those guys and the other team didn't.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is, I think this year you want to rank these second-year receivers aggressively. Whether it is, I mean, Bateman and Moore, obviously we're in the same line of thought there. We want those guys. I agree. I'm very high on them. But even if you take a shot on Elijah Moore and like a Kadarius Toney who goes later than these guys, or a Devontae Smith who goes later than these guys, take those shots. You want to do. I love taking Nico Collins with my last round pick. Love Nico Collins, big fan. Relative to where he goes, I'm not as high on him as like some of these other prospects, but I think he's got some really good indicators from like an X receiver standpoint. There's going to be a ton of targets there. Really like Nico Collins. I've got him ranked aggressively because, again, same thing. I don't want you to spend your freaking last round pick on some guy with no upside. Some guy like a Corey Davis. Perfect. Yeah. Like get Nico Collins. Get Nico Collins instead.
I might have just finished writing something about Nico Collins that'll be out next week. So I mean, it's all the same. But I'm like, you can't go over your skis too high on a guy that really did nothing last year. If you look at it, wide receiver 86. But I mean, overall, you see the tools, and I think I threw in a comp to Cortland Sutton there with Nico Collins because I'm looking at, it's the same archetype receiver, and really when you look at the reception perception, Nico Collins, as a raw rookie talent with a team that was completely void of talent, he put up better reception perception numbers than a guy coming off an ACL in Cortland Sutton that's getting pushed up really high right now. And I don't hate Cortland Sutton. I just think that if I'm going to go after a guy that early, I want it to be a guy I really believe in. And I haven't seen it from Cortland Sutton in a couple of years, so I don't really believe in that same thing. Scott, who's our next on the chopping block for Matt Harmon to dice up?
I think it might be your turn because I kind of like piggyback right in there with Bateman. And then, because Elijah Moore and Bateman are stacked right in those mid rounds, get them in the middle of the 7th round. I would argue if you're in your home league, get them in the 6th round, right? And if one of them's still back around, get the other one. And I wouldn't get them 5th, 6th. 5th's a little early, but if you can get 6, 7 and get both those guys there, they're really great value. So I wanted to make sure we tap that out. But did you talk Sky Moore? And I saw Sky Moore in the chat. Is that somebody who's on your list? Because I got Jalen Tolbert. But I didn't know if you had Sky Moore and Jalen Tolbert. I didn't want to take one of your guys.
We're talking about, like, obviously you have the Drake Londons of the world and the Garrett Wilsons that are going to be your earlier rookie picks at wide receiver that may or may not be ready to put in a big target share. They might not earn it right away because, with targets are earned. Everybody knows that now. Vacated targets have to be earned in order to be realized. And the rookies, that's their uphill battle is gaining the trust of their quarterback and their offensive coordinator to call their number as early as possible in the season. And I don't know that either London or Wilson or any of these guys get that role right off the bat. They might have to earn it really hard in the early season and preseason. But when it comes to guys like Sky Moore, I think that's the kind of they're in the kind of system and the kind of quarterback support that really will give them every chance to shine from the get-go, because Sky Moore is just like Elijah Moore. In fact, that he's a shorter guy. He's 5'9", 5'10", but we saw him dominate at X position and Z position out of the slot. It doesn't matter where you put him. He's going to gain separation, and he's an explosive ball carrier, and he's going to give Patrick Mahomes every reason to trust him, especially when the other receivers have a lot of question marks around them as well.
Mecole Hardman tweeted out that he couldn't wait for Sky Moore to get there so he could, set up his room and go to sleep and take a nap. And I was just like, what are you talking about, Mecole? I was like,
Well, I think Mecole is under the impression that he's going to have the same Tyreek Hill replacement, Uno card, reverso card, like what they drafted him for. It's like, oh, Tyreek Hill might get suspended, so we need to draft his clone from Georgia. And it really hasn't panned out because Mecole Hardman isn't Tyreek Hill. He's as fast as Tyreek Hill, but that's about where the comparisons end. And Sky Moore is more of he's the kind of guy they wanted DeMarcus Robinson to be, where it's the talent gap there is massive. And they have all these guys at Byron Pringle that they ran out there to see if they had something, and it didn't pan out. So you have all these guys moving on. They draft Sky Moore. He's got all this upside. You got Travis Kelce, still one of the best slot receivers in the game, whether he's classified as a tight end or not. Tyreek Hill ran a good majority of his routes out of the slot too, because of that matchup advantage. You get him against a slot corner, the defense has no shot. And I just think that if there's an odd man out, it isn't going to be Sky Moore. It's not going to be Travis Kelce. You're going to be looking at the scraps going to MVS and Juju, because they're kind of talented players without a true role defined in this offense. Because if they're going to keep the same offensive system, I think that you're going to have to find some kind of unique role carved out for MVS and Juju, because Travis Kelce and Sky Moore are going to establish a pretty solid role right off the bat because of their skill sets.
I'm really curious where these guys all line up. Like you said, I think that's going to kind of hold the key to unlocking this receiver core. There's also a chance, by the way, and I kind of want to bake this into my analysis of any of these guys, that all 4 of these players might see the field a ton, and it might be just a really great situation for the Chiefs offense. Andy Reid is going to field a good offense. Patrick Mahomes is going to be the quarterback of a good offense, period. It's going to be a good unit, but how the targets get dispersed, how these guys kind of fit into those roles, that could be a question. Nobody wants Mecole Hardman to have a role, it seems like, but he's going to have a role. It's going to happen. I don't think Mecole Hardman has been as bad as people talk about. I think he's been an average NFL receiver. People are just bent because they took a it took him in the 8th round that one year, and now they're kind of pissed off about it. But I think he's been fine. He could be fine as their 3rd or 4th receiver. MVS, I think, is a pure lid lifter. Like, I don't buy any of this talk that he's suddenly going to run the full route tree. And that's like, no. But that lid lifting role is going to be important. Like, they can throw, honestly, there have been times during, I think back to the Vikings offense when it was really good with Steph Diggs and Adam Thielen. I think to some of the others, there's been a few other offenses too like that, where they throw the X receiver out there and they're just like, dictate coverages, run down the field, run the wind sprints. Meanwhile, like the big slot receiver and the flanker kind of run the offense. Even some of the Rams offenses when like they had Sammy Watkins as the X and Robert Woods is the flanker and Cooper Kupp is the big slot. That was kind of the deal there too. Sammy Watkins caught 8 touchdowns in his 1 year with the Rams, but didn't have a high yardage total, stuff like that. So maybe that's the role that MVS has. I could totally see that. Then you look at, Sky Moore, love Sky Moore. I just want to see how soon is he going to earn like a legitimate starting role. But I do believe like long-term, he's got the best upside. I think he separates really well. He's great in reception perception. I think he's a guy I want to take in the later rounds. And if I don't take him in the later rounds, because if he has a role right away, take him in the late rounds. If he doesn't, he could easily be like the Amon-Ra St. Brown of this year, where he dominates in the second half of the year. He earns that role and dominates in that role. I think we could totally see that. Juju's the one I don't know. I don't know. But at the same time, Bo, like if you squint at it, you can really see like this year's Cooper Kupp in his range of outcomes. I think personally, because you think about,
I don't know. I'm not going that far.
I mean, and let me, when I say that, he's not going to lead the NFL in catches, yards, and touchdowns. Not going to happen, but he could be like a mid-round receiver that really gives you, strong every week numbers, because I think that he's a guy that obviously we know he's not a man press coverage beater, but if he plays in that big slot receiver role, I think he can crush in that role. That's the role Cooper Kupp played in. If they get him against a lot of zone coverage, Juju's been a fine zone beater. I think he's kind of gone from the most overrated receiver in the NFL to one of the more underrated guys in the NFL. If he has a legit role in this offense, I do think that Juju could be a value this year and a guy that I want to take in the mid-rounds. I did take him in the Scott Fish Bowl because I think the range of outcomes there, I think the ceiling is actually pretty high.
Well, the offense is so high, functioning. So the ecosystem, the environment, what's the hottest thing they're saying today? The milieu of the offense.
I like ecosystem. I'm a big ecosystem guy. Big ecosystem. And here's the thing though too, just to come back to the Cooper Kupp point, nobody was having Cooper Kupp as like a top fantasy receiver, even like these top, hey, I'm a real smart NFL guy and I watch the tape. Nobody was ranking him as a top 10 receiver in these like ESPN polls or, Madden ratings, any of that stuff. Nope. Nobody had him as a top 10 receiver. Now he's like a consensus 1 or 2. And a big part of it was he's the same. I still think, he took a big step just as an individual player, but for the most part, playing the same role, very similar skill set. He just got a massive bump in quarterback going from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford. Juju is getting, I think, a bigger jump going from the corpse of Ben Roethlisberger to Patrick Mahomes. So you don't even have to be the biggest Juju fan in the world to think like, yeah, he could really crush in this role if it's the role that he has.
And that my article Bounce Back Wide Receivers is coming out tomorrow, and Juju, I was forced. I felt like I had a complex where I couldn't write nice things about Juju Smith-Schuster because he's just he's been such a boring player the last couple of years. Yeah. And he's been injured, and you haven't seen it. You haven't seen anything since his huge breakout year with Antonio Brown drawing all the best coverage. And I just never saw it. We never saw it in Pittsburgh since that year. And I'm looking at like even in 2020 where he had 128 targets, but he only had 800 yards because it was just like dump off 5-yard hitch, 5-yard out. It was just gross, disgusting football. But I can't ignore that the guy is good at finding weak spots in zone coverage. He's got great hands. He's got good body positioning. He doesn't do anything after the catch, but that might just be a product of never being given the chance. And so I made the catalyst part of that blurb that I wrote about Juju Smith-Schuster about the renaissance of his mid-range game that we saw when he was a rookie and a second-year player in Pittsburgh back when Ben could actually throw it more than 40 yards. Is if the Chiefs untap that mid-range game that Juju showed when he was 19, 20 years old as a young player in the NFL, we're talking about something pretty crazy, especially with the price that's baked in right now, where you can basically say, I want to take Juju Smith-Schuster in the 8th or 9th round, and you can have him every single time if you wanted.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a little bit of Juju, not too much. I don't want my TikTok to get burned by him, but all right, I have a guy that is a rookie as well, and you can get him way late. Jalen Tolbert is wide receiver 72 right now. He plays for the Dallas Cowboys, and it looks like I'm maybe overstepping that there's an inside track for him to start on the outside, possibly, just given the fact that Michael Gallup will not be fully recovered from his injury. Michael Gallup is the future. They just signed him. They don't need to rush him back and say, hey, come back, get your knee back. We don't have anything for you. I think Tolbert has a role, but what do you think that role looks like, and how does his reception perception profile, which I looked at, it wasn't tremendous. He's 70% against man coverage, but he was doubled the most out of anybody on your chart, which does say something about kind of the role he had in the offense and what he's used to. Maybe he will not be doubled as much in this situation. So I want to kind of get your spread on him, and is he worth a late round flyer?
Oh, yeah, I definitely think so. And, Michael Gallup said just probably about 20 minutes before we started recording that he confirms he's not going to play week 1, which is good. Yeah. That's nice to hear. Thank you for the transparency. Like he said, it's just it's not possible, which it is not possible. He tore his damn ACL in January, it's just not reasonable. So I think Gallup is just, you can't draft him in a redraft league right now. I think he's pretty much in the undraftable range. If you're playing best ball, maybe, but even then you're waiting a long time. Now with Jalen Tolbert though, definitely think he's worth a late round flyer. I want to continue to monitor him. James Washington is just a guy. I don't see anything there to get super excited about. Like James Washington's fine if he's your wide receiver 4, but I don't think he can really be their second receiver. Jalen Tolbert though, legitimate skills, like you mentioned, Scott, 70% success rate versus man, and he was a guy that played a lot outside at South Alabama and won contested catches. He kind of like. I struggle to kind of come up with a comp for him, but I do think, maybe like a Marvin Jones type of career where he's just solid, just a solid type of guy. I could see that from Jalen Tolbert, wins contested, beats man coverage on the outside a little bit. Yeah, I think that Jalen Tolbert definitely, Dallas better hope he's like the number 2 receiver, shows enough this summer to become the number 2 receiver until Michael Gallup gets back, because they're going to need him. I mean, they got CeeDee Lamb and not a lot else going on there. You have to wonder if they're a team to bring in a veteran receiver at some point. But if they don't, if Tolbert shows that he can be the guy, that would be a huge win, because I do think he can play.
Yeah, all right, good. I
invested heavily in him.
Nice. Bo and I love one of the things about Bo. Our friendship has kind of been based on the mutual love of fantasy football. That's why we're all here talking fantasy football right now. We love it. We love football. I found an old diary from mine from 2008, and it said hobbies, football, fantasy football, reading. I was just like, look, and NHL 08, I was playing video games then too. So, but that's who we are. So, we don't want to be, too nerdy about it, but we all kind of came to the consensus. Bo and I both looked at the data. I'm just like, there's vacated targets, there's opportunity share. There's a role if, like you said, in training camp, he is able to pick up the offense, understand the language, understand the movement in the offense, understand where he's supposed to be on each route, understand that role, where he's supposed to position himself. All these different things that you can't just say they're going to happen. But it's nice to hear that there is possibly a nice early season. You chase those points in the early season. Maybe by the end of the season, Gallup's back and he's not necessarily involved as much. Who cares? get those points
Right.
early on in your flex, and he's cheap, 16th round, whatever it is. So
you guys buy any of this? Like Tony Pollard gonna see a ton of slot snaps?
I've been calling for that for 3 years because the
decent.
dude was a slot receiver in Memphis.
Right.
Like Tony Pollard's been my favorite player in the NFL since he came out of Memphis. It's like the barbecue narrative. His parents owned Pollard's Barbecue in Memphis, Tennessee. It's like one of the best barbecue places in the country. And I've been a huge fan of Tony Pollard all the way back. Like I'm a devout lover of Memphis running backs. Like I have them all over my dynasty rosters, all 4 of the guys that have made it in the NFL as running backs. And I think Pollard could be a package guy as a wide receiver 4 speed slot guy. And he has that in his skill set. He has great hands. He's amazing after the catch. He's one of the most gifted ball carriers in the NFL. He doesn't have the pass protection skills that Zeke does. He doesn't have the awareness that Zeke does for situations. Like Zeke is the most underappreciated best running back in the league, that like just an all-purpose type of player. Tony Pollard is just more explosive because he's younger, he's faster, he's just a different archetype of running back. And I could totally see him slotting in as a wide receiver 4 speed slot in this offense. But the problem is Kellen Moore's offense, which might be a good thing for Jalen Tolbert, is so vanilla. Like the
Static.
McCarthy, the Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy combination. Like watching the tape for the Cowboys, like even though they have so much talent, it's just so boring to watch because you know exactly, just from pre-snap read, you know exactly what play it is. They're going to run the same sequences in the same situations. It's so predictable. And that might be good for somebody like Jalen Tolbert, who's coming from a really, really low caliber of defenses that he was facing, but he still dominated those defenses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge step in his huge notch in his favor, because like you see these guys come out of small schools like Christian Watson, for example, that did not dominate that competition. And I'm looking at Jalen Tolbert going, well, he just has to beat the slot corner across from him or the cornerback 2 across from him, because CeeDee Lamb's the X now. He was last year. And another thing is what Matt Harmon charted this year was how disappointing Amari Cooper was last year as a route runner. Like, yeah, sure, he put up some big games, but it wasn't the same Amari Cooper that we've seen, like even where he was average to above average as a route runner on paper, despite being listed as an elite route runner by just about everybody else. Is Matt Harmon kind of put the microscope on Amari Cooper as a separator and found that he has never been like an elite route runner or separator.
He's
and
not
then last year,
the biggest problem with Cooper is he's not a consistent player. He's never been. And I think, I mean, you're right. He makes big plays. Like he's going to make some big plays in Cleveland this year because he can get open deep. I mean, he's a pretty good deep route runner. That's the best thing he does, I think. Some of those like double moves and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it doesn't have the consistency to his game. He never has, really.
Well, and he's always been that Z guy where you don't want to put his type on the line of scrimmage. No. And even last year as a Z to the CeeDee Lamb X and Gallup being put in the slot for the first time, it was still like Cooper didn't overwhelm with impressing anybody. He didn't impress me. He didn't impress you. And I think if you put somebody younger and more exciting and healthier out there like Jalen Tolbert, the Dallas Cowboys are not going to come in a bag of tricks and come up with a new offense because it's never been in their MO. Like Kellen Moore he's clever at calling plays in good time during the game, but you already kind of know what it's going to be between 4 plays based on the formation. And I don't like that side of it for Dak Prescott, because like they've simplified things so much for Dak that you're kind of cutting off your ceiling and your potential by saying, oh, we have a great running back B, 1A, 1B that used to be a receiver in college who's extremely dynamic after the catch, but we're always going to tease that he's a slot receiver in training camp, and then during the season, it's not going to happen. And that was what it pissed me off so much about last year, was that week 2, they ran 21 personnel against the Chargers and just lit them up. Like Zeke and Pollard in week 2 against the Chargers last year combined for 200 rushing yards. Pollard had like 70 receiving yards. They both scored. It was just like, I was like, okay, this is what I'm talking about. And we never saw it again.
Put it
Like,
away,
oh, yeah,
boys. Put it away.
21 personnel works, but we're not going to do it
Leave it
ever
for
again.
the Super Bowl. All right, it's the secret. Well, I've got one for you real quick, Matt. And this is you saw the training camp initiation of Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold walking in, people counting the Bakers and all all that bullshit. But when you look actually the practice, I saw Sam Darnold just say threw 5 touchdowns, and our boy Baker had 1 interception in the red zone. So our consensus, wide receiver 15, so mid beginning of the I don't know, 4th round, you have DJ Moore. Who do you want as a DJ Moore investor or manager here if you are willing to take that risk? Are we a Baker boy, or are we looking more at a Darnold long game?
Oh my God. I mean,
I know it's a terrible situation. How's he ranked 15 with this? I can't,
I got him actually. I have him ranked higher than that because I'm a big DJ Moore fan. He's
so good.
At some point, he's going to have like 8 to 9 touchdowns in a year, and we're cooking with gas at that point. And I ranked him as if like Baker's going to play the whole season, because I mean, I am worried that the Panthers might screw it up. We don't need a quarter. We don't need.
They still have Cam Newton on speed dial, by the way.
Right. PJ Walker is going to take some more snaps or whatever. There shouldn't be a training camp competition. Just roll with Baker for the whole year. I'm not a big
Jimmy Clausen. Paging Jimmy Clausen.
That's like a trigger word. I'm not like I'm certainly whatever you said, like a Baker boy. I ain't a Baker boy. I'm not that big of a Baker fan. Yeah, but Sam Darnold stinks. I mean, like he doesn't have it. Another year in the system, any of that stuff, it's not going to work. The fact that there is a risk that they might start Sam Darnold for 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, that's a little concerning. And I guess it would be concerning then if Baker doesn't just beat Sam Darnold out. But I think you just have to roll with Baker and kind of see what happens. I hate the idea that Darnold still might start games for this team, because it just under no circumstances has he ever been an even average starting quarterback. At least Baker has been an average starting quarterback. I saw you so bringing up Matt Rule. Did you see how he said, like, I don't make the decision on who the starting quarterback is? Like,
Jesus, that's your job, dude. Literally your only job.
Like, I kind of know what he's trying to say. Like, they'll decide it based on their play, but still, just have like some bit of self-awareness about how dumb that sounds,
Right.
Well, he doesn't have a lot of that, because the other question they asked him was, how is this offseason different from last offseason? And he said, this year I plan to win. Like, what?
He didn't plan on winning last year. He tried.
I mean, I get it. You went into with Sam Darnold as your only plan at quarterback. I guess you weren't planning on winning at all.
Well, McAdoo said during a press conference that Sam Darnold was the starting quarterback, that he was not the starting quarterback.
Well, because McAdoo overstepped, he got out of his lane.
Right. You're just like, stop talking. The whole situation. One guy is telling you who's the quarterback and who's not, and then he trades for a different quarterback, which is fine. And then the other coach is like, I can't tell you who's the quarterback. So
what a freaking nightmare.
I know. DJ Moore
that
deserves
franchise,
better. I'm a Maryland grad. I love DJ Moore. Watching him in College Park, you get to know who the Terps are. I knew about, not that like I broke the news on Stephon Diggs. I love Stephon Diggs in Maryland, but you just know when you're a local guy who grew up in Montgomery County, you're like, these guys are good. Like these are the guys that are in our area. You guys have them in the areas where you're from, in Virginia and California. Like, there's just those guys you hear about and you see them on TV, and the locals love them. And they're, the Len Biases, not, rest in peace, but everybody knows them in a local sense more so than everybody knows them in a national sense, right? Where it's your guy. And so I got to say, I'm a big fan of him, and I'm disappointed that this is where we're at with this situation with Bridgewater and Cam Newton last year. I'm back and all that bull. It's just, I'm a little hesitant on DJ Moore. So, but
he should be.
Yeah.
At least he's had it better than Terry McLaurin.
Oh my goodness! I listened to a local radio show, had Sam Munson on from PFF, and he was just like, yeah, even going back to like his quarterbacks in high school were terrible. Like these people just had terrible people. No, he didn't have terrible people, but Allen Robinson was the person they were talking about having terrible quarterbacks even in high school.
Oh,
so,
well, yeah.
You just even like, I think there's just you want to see the best for people like Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson with a competent quarterback. So I'm excited about Allen Robinson, but we'll do one more with Bo, and then we got to get you out of here. But before we do that, also at the end, we're going to wrap up with a little bit of a food take because, man, you're a foodie, brother. You Twitter, you're all business. I love it. You're professional. You're the man. But on Instagram, which we're friends on Instagram, I get, excited for your food. So we'll end on that. But I'll give you one more guy to kind of, gauge it. And by the way, go to Reception Perception, sign up. We use it here at NimbleWNumbers.com. Bo uses it for his articles, and we credit Matt when we do. We won't steal his charts and put them out there that are, behind closed doors. Don't do that, by the way. Don't be a plagiarist. Didn't think I could say this now in 2022 in the internet. You can screen grab anything. Don't be a plagiarist, right? So. But last NFL related question.
Well, I was going to talk about Allen Robinson, and you really stole my thunder. So, I guess we're a little rusty. We haven't had a show in a few months, so I'm glad we're talking wide receivers because I wanted to commiserate first of all with Matt about last year's Chicago Bears offense because I need a puke bag every time I watch the tape.
Oh, do we have to? Do we have to talk about the past?
Briefly, because I want to kind of give context to just how hamstrung and unprepared they were for having a rookie quarterback who ran a completely RPO system and decided to do none of that, even though one of their backup quarterbacks also won a Super Bowl on a primarily RPO system in Nick Foles. Once Carson Wentz went down, but Matt Nagy knows best. He's not stupid, according to himself, and he did no pre-snap motion. He had no pre-snap motion. Kills me. Yeah, he faced one of the best pass rushing units in the league in Cleveland and decided to run 5-man blocking schemes all day with no pre-snap motion and no RPOs to give his quarterback any chance. And of course, his stud X wide receiver that had just come off 2 consecutive 140-plus target seasons, completely fell off the map with injuries, COVID, and a fall from grace, apparently, where they just blackballed him out of the offense. And now he gets to go to the Rams and go from one of the worst offenses in NFL history to Sean McVay, who I consider to be a top 5 offensive mind of all time. And that's not an exaggeration. I've watched a lot of football over the years, and Sean McVay is a freaking genius. And he's got Matthew Stafford, he's got Cooper Kupp, and now he's got Allen Robinson, who's not washed, by the way, guys. Not even close. He's 28 years old. He's still in his prime, and he's still just a dog on the outside. Good luck covering him. He doesn't need separation to beat your ass out there. And now he's got a great quarterback and a legendary coach calling plays and calling his number. And he's wearing jersey number 1 now. So
pretty
A-Rob to the fucking moon this year. And so Matt, I need you to confirm my bias that Allen Robinson's going to go completely bananas this year.
Yeah. Any argument that Allen Robinson is washed is just ridiculous. I mean, if you're using any sort of yards per target, yards per this, hey, yards are from the damn quarterback, and the quarterbacks have been bad for Chicago the entire time. And I like Justin Fields. I hope he succeeds. He was awful last year by almost any evaluation. So, and it's really not even his fault. The Bears didn't prepare him to be ready, and they didn't set him up for success once he was there. So yeah, they have, Allen Robinson and even Darnell Mooney too, who's a speed-based receiver. They've got him running a bunch of slants and curls and, it's just so bad. It was a terrible, terrible situation. You look at Robinson now and you listen to, what Jordan Rodriguez has to say. He's a great beat reporter, that they are just so excited about him and that he's so excited about them, feels rejuvenated being there, which I don't blame him. Look at where he's been his entire career, what he's had to deal with. So yeah, I think he's going to line up more than just the X receiver position, but we know that this offense has been at its best when they've had an outside guy who can win against man press coverage and win contested. I think that's going to be his role. He's still a great separator, still a great route runner. Even so, he would have to be totally washed to fail in this situation. To be the number 2 receiver for the Rams. Robert Woods was pacing for 130 targets before he got hurt. Play the song for the haters there.
It's a violin, the world's smallest violin.
He would have to be completely washed to be bad in this situation. and he's not completely washed. So yeah, I think he's going to have a great year this year, and the Rams are going to be a great offense. Period.
Wide receiver 27 too in that, mid of the 6th round. Maybe get him in the 5th round. People are going to be off him though in home leagues. This is the thing. We're sharps. You play in sharps. You do Scott Fish. You do all these things. Yeah, well,
debatable.
Matt Harmon is a sharp. I have not done anything to be a sharp, so I'm not going to call myself one. Bo's definitely a sharp. He's got the Fantasy Pros hat on. I mean, look at that hat. That makes him like a double sharp.
I paid for this hat though.
Hey, it looks good. Matt paid for that water bottle, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that was
it's probably a wedding gift that was supposed to be for the cows out in the pasture.
Maybe. Well, listen, I love it. I respect it. My wife gave me this.
It's like a trough, like a feeding trough.
My wife gave me this it's a beer growler, and but at the time she gave it to me, I was desperately looking for more water. I wanted to drink more water, and so she gave it to me at Christmas, and I was just like, thanks, honey, in front of her parents, like, it's a great new water bottle, like, awesome, great. And she's like, yeah, okay, yeah. And I was like, oh, this is great. We get home, she's like, man, smart being like, hey, it's a water bottle in front of my parents. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, this is my new water bottle. She's like, it's a beer growler, stupid. I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna use it as my water bottle. And I've poured it a couple times, but it's a water bottle, and it's 64 ounces, and I got 2 of them now. And I drink them, I keep rotate them. So I respect a man with a big water bottle, because you go into public and you tell people.
There you go. Like, there's your gallon.
You can just bang on people, if they come at you. So don't advocate violence, but you know what I mean. You can, hide behind it, and people try to, come at you. I've never swung it, but So anyway, I digress.
It's a good defense against archers.
Right. All right. Let's get out of here. I want to know, what are you smoking these days? Because you have a lovely. Is it called the egg? Is that what it's called? I want to miss name.
That's a double-edged question there. I've got the big green egg, and
yes,
and I have a Traeger Ranger too, which is the small portable one. I have that as well on the
camping one. I like that one.
Yeah.
So
it's also great. Like tonight, I'm going to probably smoke a whole chicken for dinner. Well, I mean, it just depends. It depends on the occasion, my friend. Yeah. I will say, though, my favorite thing to make is pulled pork, because I know I can nail it every time. It's going to be great. It feeds too much. Like, I'm like, unless I'm feeding the whole, freaking neighborhood, which I'm not. I always got extra, always got leftovers whenever there's pulled pork. So that's one of my favorites. Although I will give a shout out to Bo here. I used the smokestack rub on ribs recently, and my wife said it was the best ribs she's ever had. So I'm in on the rib game lately. So make sure you get yourself some of that.
Yeah, get yourself some Smoke Shack from BigTimeFlavor.co. It is the preferred dry rub for barbecue, according to Matt Harmon's ball and chain. I will take that to the grave. That's a big shout out from Mrs. Harmon herself, saying that the ribs just aren't the same when they don't have Smoke Shack on them.
I did 2 kinds. I did a barbecue flavor, and then I did like a honey sriracha one. And she's like, I was much more expecting to like the honey sriracha ones. The other ones blew them out of the water. So you didn't know you were getting an ad here, Bo, but there it is.
I had a feeling, though. Because
clip it, put it everywhere.
What are we smoking? And Matt Harmon says we're smoking ribs with Smoke Shack barbecue rub.
Yeah, and I didn't mean any innuendo, by the way. I'm keeping this clean for the kids, because I want Denny and his kids to be able to listen.
For the kids,
it's always for the kids.
We live in California, though, so we can smoke whatever we want.
Yeah. You guys are California guys. I'm a little jealous. It costs you like $9 a gallon, but you got a nice beautiful view and the sun, and so that's nice.
You would think I would have bought a bike by now.
Well, I gotta say, shout out to Matt Harmon. If you go check his pin tweet is about how his epic journey of losing 100 pounds, becoming the beautiful man you see him right there. And so I just got to say, as a man who's not exercised for a while, starting to exercise again, I read that today and I was reminded of that, man. That's actually how I first found out about you years ago when you shared about it. I always want to say I love that about you, and what you've built yourself into, and overcoming that first to create what you've done. Man, you are an inspiration. your American dream is what we're going to say here.
Oh.
And we appreciate you being willing to come on and jump on here with us and share. Please, everybody, go buy Reception Perception right now. And I'll put the link in the show as well, so people can do it in the show if you are listening to it on YouTube. Thank you for everybody who jumped in. D Brown.
And unless you subscribe as a sicko member, a VIP, Matt really doesn't think too highly of you unless you are a sicko, which is why I'm a Prime member.
Yeah, I welcome all members. All level of membership is good. Although definitely you got to at least go Prime. I mean, then you get in the Discord. You get the dynasty rankings, all kinds of stuff, man. It's all good. But yeah, whatever level you can do, I want it to be something that hopefully everybody can, whatever range you can jump into. Would love to have you.
And these are helpful, by the way, for fantasy football redraft, but then also if you understand DFS, there's a bridge there as well. If you look at how these wide receivers are being used and what they're how they line up against different defenses. So it's not just fantasy football season might end in August or the drafts are in there. This can be used all season long. You've got articles up there, player profiles are there for all new players that are coming in the league. You got the rookies there. You've got different features. Please sign up. It's a great tool. It'll help you win money. I mean, literally, you're talking to people who win thousands of dollars in fantasy football. I took lots of money from Bo last year, so it is what it is. I know. I'm rubbing it in, Matt, because the first year we played head-to-head DFS, we did a whole season-long contest. The battle, I think, was at the Thunderdome over with Joe Bond, and Bo beat me. He crushed me pretty handily. Second year, he was crushing me the second year. Last year, I came back and won like 7 straight to beat him, and then it was an epic victory. And
he didn't take my money. He took his own money back.
That's there you go. Yeah. Just breaking even, pal.
Yeah, well, I'm buying a nice bottle of like my most expensive scotch, and I'm going to unveil it on our show beginning of the NFL season and cheers it to Bo. I'm going to drink it every show, just a tiny taste. I'm just going to sip it to Bo to honor him. But thank you for coming on. Where else can people find your work this year? You're also doing Yahoo. I mean, apparently that's a big deal somewhere, on the internet.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at @MattHarmon_BYB. Hopefully next week I'll be able to share some cool upcoming things that I'll have with Yahoo this coming season. So can't say too much about it yet, but very, very excited about this year. I think it's gonna be a great football season. I can't wait.
That's awesome. And yeah, and all these are linked here. You can go to his account, follow Yahoo Fantasy, Reception Perception, do it all. Bo, where can people follow you, good sir?
You can find me on Twitter, of course, at Bo_McBigTime. There's my link tree is in my bio, where you can find my my food website, bigtimeflavor.co. You can also find all the links to the written work I do for what seems like a dozen different outfits. I'm the ultimate freelancer, and I still have set aside enough time for one day when Matt Harmon will let me chart tight ends for him, because he doesn't have the bandwidth for it. Which is it's okay. It's okay if he's not ready, but eventually I'm going to have that time set aside for whenever he's ready for me to chart the tight ends that are actually wide receivers, but are criminally underpaid because of their positional designation.
Is this a shameless Kyle Pitts reference? You're trying to get Matt to never come.
It could also be Mike Gesicki, though. It could be Mike Gesicki. Okay. It could be.
He'll move the needle. Mike Gesicki will move the needle.
No, I mean, obviously the controversial ones are the guys that don't line up in line at all. So I get why Matt Harmon doesn't do that in Reception Perception. It's a lot of work. Like just being a subscriber to that awesome website is, I can't imagine adding more to his plate. That's why I'm volunteering to do it. I'll do it for free too. I just want I want to be able to say that I did eventually break him down, maybe in a decade.
Well, I'm not going to
2030.
I'm not going to break Matt down. I'm going to thank Matt for coming on the show. As always, it's great to have a fellow football head, a foodie as well. Thank you, sir. And please go follow him and subscribe. And Bo is over at Bo_McBigTime. I'm Nimble W Numbers. And next time we get together, we're going to have a special treat. We're talking wide receiver theory 2. All these players we talked about, by the way, all kind of align with wide receiver 2 theory and kind of finding value where wide receivers are underlooked and other wide receivers are overvalued. So all the players we talked about kind of fit that model. But next time, where I think we're going to have Mike Collins with us, and then we're also going to have Denny Carter with us as well. So from one wide receiver guru to another obsessed, crazy, psycho wide receiver guy who won't even draft running backs because he loves wide receivers so much. We're team wide receiver if you haven't figured it out. So thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a great draft, everybody, if we don't see you until then.